Hey everybody, today we are going to be tackling two essential questions. The first essential question is what makes a sentence? What pieces does every sentence need to have in order to be considered a sentence? And the second essential question is, number two, how can we combine sentences without creating run-ons or comma splices? So let's go ahead and get started. So a sentence needs three things: a subject, which can be a noun or a pronoun. That's who or what the sentence is about. And the subject always completes the verb. The second thing a sentence needs is a verb. Now that verb can be an action, like run, jump, sing, laugh, cry, etc. Or it can be a linking verb like am, is, are, was, were. Okay? But every sentence needs a subject and a verb. And it also needs to express a complete thought. Now, a sentence should express a complete thought and should not leave you hanging. For instance, this is a complete sentence. My mom bought a video game. But an incomplete thought might be, when my mom bought a video game. It leaves you wondering what happened next. Like, when my mom bought a video game, what happened? One thing I want you to remember about a complete thought is don't confuse complete for clear. So a complete song might be a complete sentence, might be we sang a song. Some kids or people might say, well, this isn't complete because we don't know what song or who is we. But those details add clarity, not completeness. We sang a song is a complete sentence. We is the subject, sang is the verb. It expresses a complete thought. We're not left wondering like what happened next. So very quickly, I need you to answer this question. What are the three things every sentence needs in order to actually be a sentence? Sentences that are incomplete are known as fragments. A fragment is a piece of something. It means it's usually missing a subject, a verb, or a complete thought. Sometimes they feel like they've left you hanging, waiting on what happens next. And they just feel incomplete. A fragment, if I have a fragment of glass from a window, it's a piece of the glass. It's not a complete window. It's not a complete sheet of glass. So a fragment in the English world is an incomplete sentence. For example, with a small moment of joy. That's a fragment. It's missing a verb and a subject, to be honest. Joy is a noun, but it's not the subject of the sentence. It's not doing anything. Or, because I'm awesome. I'm left hanging, wondering what is happening as a result or why that's important. Even though it feels like I is a subject and the M in I'm stands for am, it doesn't express a complete thought. We might have a subject and a verb, but this because is making it incomplete. So let's play. Is it a sentence or a fragment? You're going to answer these next questions on your Edpuzzle screen. Coach Outler loves K-pop. Well, Coach Outler loves K-pop is, of course, a sentence. The subject is Coach Outler. The verb is loves. Whether it's true or not, we don't know. So let's try this one. When the school year ends. When the school year ends is not a sentence. And in fact, it's a fragment. It does not express a complete thought. It leaves you hanging. When the school year ends, what happens? School is over at 4:10. School is over at 4:10 is, in fact, a sentence. The subject is school. The verb is. Remember those little linking verbs, am, is, are, was, were. They feel a bit different than the action verbs, but they are a sentence because it does express a complete thought. What about this? I laughed. It is a sentence. The subject is I, the verb is laughed, and believe it or not, yeah, it expresses a complete thought. It's a small thought, but it's a small sentence, but it's still complete. I'm a great student. I'm a great student is a sentence. The subject is I, and the verb is am. It's part of that contraction. I am. That's what I'm stands for. And it is a complete thought. Because you were tardy. That is not a sentence. In fact, it's a fragment. That does not express a complete thought. In fact, it leaves us hanging because you're tardy. What happened? If you learn so much. If you learn so much is a fragment. It's not a complete sentence. It does not express a complete thought. Even though you feels like the subject and learn feels like the verb, this if makes it incomplete. We need to finish that statement. Now, there are other things. Once we know what complete sentences are, we have to be on the lookout for some dangerous mispunctuation or lack of punctuation. And one of those problems is a run-on. A run-on is when two sentences are smashed together without proper connection. It's like a head-on collision. When two cars hit each other, they run on. It's a head-on collision. It's bad news. So we want to avoid them. For example, Jake went to school. He was late. In actuality, this is two separate sentences. Jake went to school. He was late. Those are two separate sentences, and we've smashed them together, and it's causing a wreck of a sentence. How can we correct a run-on? Well, we can do it with pattern 1, which is a sentence, comma, fanboys, sentence. So we're going to put a comma, fanboys, right in between those two sentences. And the fanboys, in case you don't remember from previous grades, are for, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. They are conjunctions, coordinating conjunctions, in fact. They hook two things, two words, two phrases, two clauses together, two sentences together. So now we've turned that run-on. Jake went to school, comma, but he was late. Jake is our subject, went is our verb, Jake went to school is a complete sentence. He is our subject, was is our verb, he was late is a complete sentence. They're connected by this comma but. Correct the following run-on with a comma and fanboys. So now it's your turn. I studied for my test. I made a 100. How do I connect those two? With a comma and a fanboys. Don't forget to include both. Another way we can correct a run-on is by changing to pattern 2, which is a sentence, semicolon sentence. A semicolon just joins two sentences. It usually joins two sentences that are very similar and connected in thought. Jake went to school, semicolon, he was late. So we've taken that first sentence, and instead of a comma fanboy, we just changed it to a comma, or to a semicolon. He was late. I studied for my test. I made a 100. How do I correct those with a semicolon? Another way we can correct a run-on is we can add an awubis to begin, like pattern 4, opener, comma, sentence. This opener is not a complete sentence anymore. We've kind of turned it into that fragment, but then we have a complete sentence to follow it up so that we're not left hanging by this. So I add an awubis here, an awubis to begin equals a comma within. So although Jake went to school, you can hear it kind of causing you to hang. Although Jake went to school, comma, he was late. Here's our new subject and our verb. We only have one because we only have one sentence. This part is an incomplete sentence, or you could call it a fragment. It's actually a dependent clause, but in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really matter whether you call it dependent clause or a fragment. It's not complete. So I want you to correct the following run-on with an awubis to begin. And in case you've forgotten, the awubis words are as, after, although, while, when, until, because, before, if, and since. Choose one of them that would make sense right here, and then don't forget your comma. Another way we can correct a run-on, we just add that awubis to the middle. Jake went to school, although he was late. Now we've got awubis in the middle. No need to fiddle, so you'll notice I don't have a comma. But now our subject and verb is at the beginning. Jake is our subject, went is the verb, Jake went to school. And then we've got this extra information, although he was late. So I want you to correct the following run-on with an awubis in the middle. You may have to rearrange the order of the sentences. So you can move I made a 100 to the beginning, or you can leave I studied for my test at the beginning. Just make sure you choose an awubis that makes sense. And remember, an awubis in the middle, no need to fiddle. So you don't need a comma in this one. A comma splice. A comma splice happens when two sentences are pushed together with just a comma. And I've put this in all caps because I need you to really remember it. You cannot join two sentences with just a comma. You can join them with a comma conjunction, like a comma fanboys, but you cannot join two complete sentences with just a comma. It's just like that run-on. You're pushing two things together without the proper separation. To determine if something is a comma splice, and on a test, they're going to give you a comma splice, and you have to decide, like, oh, wait, I can't use that. That's incorrect. Comma splices are always incorrect. So to determine if something is a comma splice, look on either side of the comma. If there's a sentence on each side, like a subject, verb, complete thought, then it's a comma splice. So if I look at this comma right here, and I look to the left, Jake plays basketball. That's a sentence. We've got a subject, verb, complete thought. And then I look to the right. It's like crossing the street. Look left, look right. Don't get hit by the car. Don't get hit by the wrong answer, right? So he is the starting point guard. He is the subject. The verb is. That's a complete sentence. So I've got sentence, comma, sentence. Wait a second. You just told me that's incorrect. I cannot join sentence, comma, sentence. That is an incorrect way to join two sentences. So how do we correct them? Same way that we corrected those run-ons. So correct the following comma splice by adding a fanboys. Jake loves basketball, comma, he is the starting point guard. Jake loves basketball is a sentence. He's the starting point guard is a sentence. How do I correct that? I can also correct that comma splice by adding an awubis to begin. Remember the awubises: as, after, although, while, when, until, because, before, if, and since. So you choose one, put it to begin. We can also correct the following comma splice by adding an awubis in the middle. Don't forget to delete the comma because awubis in the middle, no need to fiddle. Jake loves basketball, comma, he's the starting point guard. How do I correct that? All right, now that we've corrected all those things, we've learned about sentences, comma splices, run-ons, fragments. You need to be on the lookout, not just on a test, but in your own writing to make sure that you are not making these same mistakes. Have a great day, and thanks for listening.